So, this video, I'm just going to be chatting about blades. I've got some really cool projects coming up, which I'm filming currently, but they won't be out until I have enough to show you. For the moment, I'm going to talk to you about a question that I get asked all the time, and that is about blades. I just cut sedimentary stones. Sandstone, limestone, that's the kind of guy I am. I make stuff out of those ancient materials. If you're working soapstone or quartz or marble or granite, I can't really have an opinion on that. All I can tell you is what I know from what the materials that I use all the time. And these are the blades that I use. If I'm cutting limestone, which, to be fair, I don't cut a massive range of limestone. I'm either cutting Ancaster, Portland, Cadeby, sometimes Mollianus on the odd occasion, bit of Bath maybe. Either way, if I'm cutting limestone, I use an electroplated vanity blade. Quality bit of kit because it has an abrasive over such a large amount of the face of the blade. But if you're cutting limestone, this is what I use. You can get little ones, tiny little ones as well. Little blades do come in handy for awkward spots. So these electroplated blades, I only say use them on limestone because they will not last at all on sandstone. You could probably get them to last a little while, but after a day of using a vanity blade on sandstone, you might as well bin that vanity blade, and they're not particularly cheap. So if I'm using electroplated blades, I will have one that's quite new and I'll use a more worn one. And I'll use a worn one for cutting in things where depth has to be more precise. It cuts slower, so you have more precision over the depth of your cut, whereas the new one will rip through it really fast. But the new one's super handy when it comes to honing down surfaces because you can just rip straight down to where you need to be rather than the worn one, which would take ages to get there. So I do swap between two different vanity blades, and to be fair, because they're identical, it's very hard to keep track of which one's which. Either way, generally speaking, if I'm cutting sandstone, I will use a turbo blade. These are standard. Loads of people sell them, all different colours, but they're pretty much the identical same thing, really. I think they're usually sold as granite cutting blades, but they have like a medium hardness compound. They'll keep the diamonds exposed, and for most sandstones, they'll be perfect. Really soft sandstones, ideally you want a soft sandstone specific blade, or you will rip through these really fast. So soft sandstone blades have a hard compound that holds the diamonds in. So if you're cutting soft stone, you want a hard compound. If you're cutting hard stone, you want a soft compound. So it keeps the diamonds exposed at all times. Otherwise they get really hot and they glaze over and they stop working, they go black, and it's awful. So when I'm cutting sandstone, because turbo blades only have a small amount of abrasive on the face, you don't really want to be using them to hone surfaces down, because what happens is you rip through this diamond really quick. You usually wear out the face of it before you wear out the edge of it. So if you are honing surfaces down, you want a grinding cup for that. See, you get loads of different types of grinding cups. You can get really expensive ones, like these ones, right? Turbo cup. Or you can get really cheap ones. And in my personal experience, I'm sure people will argue with me about this, the cheap ones are just as good as the expensive ones. They've got a soft compound in it, so it'll always have diamonds exposed, even when you cut in hard sandstones. We have semi-rigid abrasive pads, I think is what you would have to Google to find them, something like that. Backing plate, abrasive disc, flush cut nut. Lovely little combo. And you can get these in lots of different grits, so you can go, I think you can probably buy them up to like 200 grit or something, but I only ever buy 60 grit because you don't really ever need to polish architectural stone any further than 60 grit. If you're doing worktops and stuff like that, then you need to do wet polishing, and then you get into a whole world that I don't dabble in at all. Everything I do is usually for the external of a house, or potentially sometimes a fireplace. So I have two different backing pads. I have one really worn one, which is shaped like that, so it's bowed, and then I have a newer one which is flat. This is handy. The convex one is handy for doing concave surfaces because it makes more contact with the stone, and this one's just good for flat. They're also known as flexi pads. You can buy them from all sorts of places. I think they work out about 8 to 10 quid per disc. If you buy them in bulk, they're cheaper. But if you're working sandstone, you'll rip through these all the time if you're polishing at 60 grit. So, that's that. Moving on to 9-inch blades. Generally speaking, I don't really change my 9-inch blade. I use one blade, I use a turbo blade, and that is for limestone and sandstone. You can get, let me get one of these, 9-inch vanity blades. I've got a few of these. I bought them in bulk when someone was trying to flog them ages ago, but I'd never use them because I find that because there's such a massive surface area of abrasive on it, it puts a lot of strain on the grinder. It makes the grinder really hot, so I don't really like using these. I tend to just use your standard flush cut turbo blade. I'll keep that on for limestone, I'll keep it on for sandstone. The only time when I do change my 9-inch blade is if I'm cutting really hard sandstone. And then I will use a segmented blade. If you use a segmented blade when cutting hard sandstone, it means that if the blade gets too hot, it allows for the expansion of the blade, so you don't end up with any buckling happening in the blade, which can proper freak you out. If you're looking down a blade with your safety specs on, you're looking down a blade vertically and it's getting too hot, and it's a turbo blade like this, which doesn't have any real room for expansion. It's got a few little notches in it. Once that blade expands to a point, it will then start to twist and warp as you're looking down it, and it's proper freaky. So segmented blades are the way to go if you're cutting hard sandstone. I have tried all sorts of blades. In my experience, 9-inch blade, these they're all day long. 5-inch blade, limestone, sandstone. I hope this video was helpful for you. Anybody who's starting off in the masonry game, or people who are already in the masonry game and just want to see how other people do it. That's what I like using. I'm sure it will change as time goes on, as new products come out, but as it stands right now, that's the blades I use. If you could like, share, subscribe, and all the rest of that jazz, I thoroughly appreciate it, and I'll catch you guys later.